Hello, this is Matthew Chan. Welcome to the new episode of the Success Formula with Ray Williams. And in today's topic, we're going to talk about practical strategies to build confidence in business and life. So how you doing, Ray?
I'm doing great, Matthew. I'm looking forward to this segment because I think people are going to be able to take away some real nuggets of things that can help them, that they can implement really quickly. And it's based a lot on scientific research about the way the brain works, psychological research, the NLP research and as you know, I'm a trained NLP master practitioner.
That's
so
right.
It comes from really solid background of we know this works.
Yeah, and I think that this is a good topic because I think as we go through life, when we're going through different projects or different phases, it's very hard to keep confidence very high at all times. I mean, we do have moments of weakness, and so I think it's very relevant.
Exactly. And, you may have confidence in one area in your life, and there's another area of your life you lack that confidence. And people often reflect, well, how can I be so easygoing and feel like I can handle this easily in one area, and in another area I'm at a loss. So I'm going to address that today as well.
Yeah, I think that's good because I find that I have high confidence in things I already know and have done, but when I go into new areas, I was like, the confidence isn't quite as strong as it could be. So anyway.
Exactly. So we're going to cover in the first segment today four basic strategies, and I go into detail, and it's going to be a step-by-step process that I'll describe. So people will be able to take notes, and if you manage to keep a copy of the video, you'll be able to go back and replay it again as well.
Great.
And then the second segment will handle 4 more strategies, so you'll have a total of 8 strategies that will be really terrific for you to keep. Okay.
So, viewers, basically, this is going to be a 2-part episode. And that's how Ray has planned it out. So after this, at the conclusion of this episode, be sure to tune into the follow-up. So no time like the present, Ray. Why don't you just jump right on in?
Okay, so here's the first one. It's really quick. And it has to do with productivity. And a lot of people have difficulty maintaining their concentration on doing one particular thing for a long period of time. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it doesn't mean you have to be ADD or anything else for it to be a problem. It can happen to anybody. So here's the strategy, and it's very simple, and by golly, it works. I want you to buy an egg timer.
An egg timer.
Egg timer. You know the one that goes click, 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 and you just turn it? Yeah. I don't mean like an egg timer that's an hourglass with sand in it. Not that type.
I gotcha.
But Okay, and what you do is when you're working on something is you turn it to 20 minutes. And you work, and the focus you have is you're going to work on that one thing thinking you're only going to work for 20 minutes only. Okay? And then you concentrate on working on that one thing for 20 minutes, and then you stop.
Okay.
Now, the scientific research behind this is you're telling yourself in your brain and your mind, I only have to work on this for 20 minutes. I can concentrate for 20 minutes. I could do that.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
Not too difficult.
But if we're doing a task and we think, oh, my God, I have to concentrate for the next 2 or 3 hours on this, that's where your mind starts to wander. You want to start wandering away from the task. So the strategy here is very simple. Egg timer, 20 minutes. You work on that task for 20 minutes. You stop and you get up and you exercise and you move your arms a bit. You kind of move around physically. And that allows you now to return to the task if you want to keep doing that. You then set the timer again for 20 minutes and you go back to the task. Or if you want to, you can shift to do something else for 20 minutes. But you only think about doing what you have to do in 20-minute blocks. That's it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And I can tell you, this will improve your concentration and your productivity by up to 50%.
Really? Okay. Is there an upper limit to where that trick might work? I mean, like, for example, 2 hours? I mean, you keep doing it in 20-minute increments. Is there an upper limit, do you think?
No, well, as long as you've got pretty good energy and you've still got food coming into you and you've got something to drink. I'm not suggesting you do this like for 16 hours straight, okay?
I understand. Well, sometimes when you're trying to get a project done, you try to, immerse yourself in it, but it can be self-defeating sometimes.
Right, and the problem is the longer you go on at one given time without a break, the more you're going to ruin your concentration and your productivity starts to go down.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you just think 20-minute segments only, and give it a try for those of you that are going to watch the video too. You'll be surprised at the results. All right. Okay, so that's strategy number 1.
Got it.
Strategy number 2 is called an instant reframe. Instant reframe.
Okay.
One of the most difficult parts of making personal changes is that you default to old patterns and old habits before you're aware of it. Developing consciousness about your inner state is really, really hard for people. It means paying attention to what's happening internally while you're doing the stuff externally. And so this is a psychological point of view. It means if I'm working on something or with somebody, is I'm aware of what I'm feeling and thinking at the same time that I'm actually talking to you. So it's looking inside and outside simultaneously.
Okay.
By improving your capacity to do that, you are capable of doing this instant reframe. So here's the steps in an instant reframe. Particularly when it applies to confidence. So you're in a situation that suddenly you begin to feel like you don't feel very confident in this situation, right?
Right.
You feel like, hey, I don't think I can handle this, or I'm kind of starting to get anxious or nervous. The first thing to do, step 1, is notice where you're feeling it physically in your body.
Okay.
Am I feeling tightness in my throat, in my chest, in my neck, and just kind of be aware of where that tightness is, okay? And here's what you do. If you're by yourself, you instantly put up your hand and you say, stop.
Even when you're by yourself?
Yeah.
Stop?
Stop. As though you were a police officer.
Okay.
If you're not by yourself, don't do this.
People think you're nuts, right?
Right. So what you do is you do it mentally instead, is in your head. You think of putting up your hand and you say stop. There's a reason for doing this in this second step. And that is you want to stop that feeling of non-confidence right in its tracks.
Interesting.
Stop the feeling. Okay?
It's very similar to what we talked about in a previous episode about breaking habits. Very simple.
Right.
Okay.
You have to stop the pattern somehow. So this thing of putting up your hand and saying stop. Okay, this is a kind of an abrupt break. The next step is you change your posture, sit or stand straight up with your erect posture. Because what will happen is, when we're not feeling so confident, guess what happens, Matthew? We start to bend over and slouch and look down.
Yeah.
And our eyes go down.
It's true.
Okay. Right. So, even if the situation is giving you a bit of anxiety, what you're doing here is you're reframing it by doing this. So, you change your posture. You sit up straight. You stand up straight. You put your head up. And you look up with your eyes.
Okay. You
push your shoulders back, pull your stomach in, and you smile.
Even if you got to force it out, right?
Even if you got to force it out. Now, I got to tell you, when you start changing your body's reaction to the situation, it has an effect on your mental attitude. It's really hard to smile and not feel pretty good about yourself at the same time. But what happens often when we're not confident, just look at me, what happens? And I see this in people all the time.
You're scowling and frowning. Looking down.
Right? Because we're not feeling like we can handle this. But instead, if I'm back this way, body posture and our physical appearance to give us confidence so that we can develop a mental confidence. It's not the other way around.
I got you. Okay.
We're physically reframing. So that's strategy number 2. Okay?
Yes.
Strategy number 3 is called rehearsing confidence. Rehearsing confidence. Okay, we have a great deal of research from brain science and other psychological studies that show that when you imagine you're confident about something, you can actually become confident. And the reason for that is, this is what comes from science, is your brain can't distinguish between an imagined event and a real event. It sees it as being exactly the same thing.
Really?
Yeah. So I use that example of the basketball team. Remember I talked to you about the basketball team?
Mm-hmm.
And they took half the basketball team and they put them in a room to practice free throws by imagining the free throws in their head. That's all they did. They would just imagine shooting the free throws in their head over and over and over again with their eyes closed. They took the other half of the team and they put them out on the basketball court and they actually had them shoot free throws, but with no instruction. Okay? You would think that the half of the team that was actually practicing the free throws on the court would do better when they both came out and practiced together than the team that just sat in the room and practiced the free throws in their head. They didn't.
Well, I got to stop you here. This whole imagination stuff has got me really in a tizzy right now because, so I'm trying to digest this. So when you imagine, are you talking about like going into a meditative state, or are you talking about like laying down and thinking about it? I mean, what?
No,
when you use the word
what I'm
imagine, I mean, can you narrow it down to what we might do? Yeah.
So in that example I used about the basketball team, they would be sitting down and their psychological coach would say, okay, I want you to imagine and see yourself walking onto the basketball court, walking up to the free throw line, and I want you to see yourself bouncing the ball and now taking the free throw shot. So they're visualizing all of those things up to taking the shot and then doing it over again the next time. And visualize yourself putting the ball in the net each time.
How long do you do it for it to take root?
It depends on the nature of the task. There's a research study out now that shows that this particular guy wanted to become good enough at golf that he could actually enter and get his ticket on the PGA Tour as an amateur. And he was not that level of golf player.
Right.
So he did some psychological research on how many times he would have to do that in practice in order for him. And they determined that 10,000 hours of practice will allow you to master something that you can do if you just do it over and over again. So there's a parallel in the sense of this visualization. You could visualize yourself doing that free throw 10,000 times successfully, and your brain thinks you can actually do it.
So are you saying that we're going to count 10,000 times or even 1,000 times? I mean,
well, yeah, it depends on the task. It depends on the task, how many times you would do that visualization. The more times you visualize it, doing it successfully, the more times you're going to feel confident about your ability to actually do it.
Oh, okay.
Because your brain can't distinguish between an imagined event and a real event.
Interesting. Now,
so here are the steps. Here are the steps then, rehearsing confidence.
Yeah.
Step number 1. You imagine yourself in a typical scenario where you have not been confident before. Okay? Step number 2. You watch yourself on your mental movie screen, so you see it like it's a movie screen. Mm-hmm. Being confident in everything you do at other things. Okay?
Right.
Step number 3, you make the movie bigger, brighter, more colorful, with stereo sound, with a huge panel TV.
Okay.
Seeing yourself doing whatever you do well, really, really well. Okay, step number 4. You jump into the screen and become the person you're observing. So instead of watching yourself do it, you become that person. And you feel what you're doing, you see what you're doing, you hear what you're doing in detail. Okay, step number 5. You take your finger and your thumb while you're doing that, and you press it hard together. And and then you play that movie back over and over in your mind, seeing yourself and taking part in doing what you're doing. Incredibly successful, because that's one thing you're good at. Okay, then you stop after about 20 seconds. You release your thumb and your finger, and you open your eyes. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then you say, okay, now I'm going to visualize something I'm not very good at. Right? Mm-hmm. And you now close your eyes and you visualize something you're not good at, and you press your thumb and your finger together. And what happens is that pressing of the thumb and finger together brings back the feeling of the visualization when you were really, really successful and really, really confident. You're making a transference. You're transferring the feelings and the visualization from one to the other.
Is that by pressing your anchor or something?
That's an anchor. Okay. Exactly.
All right.
So what you're doing is you're rehearsing confidence from one scenario, and you're transferring it to another.
Now, I don't want to take you off track, for my own curiosity. So you get the confidence issue in you, but obviously, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's not obvious. Do you actually get better at what you do? I mean, without the practice? Like in the case, like I've never shot basketball hoops. Okay, I can imagine myself doing it 1,000 times, but at the end of the day, don't I still have to practice in real life to get the muscles going?
Yeah, of course you do. But when you now practice it in real life, you're going to bring the confidence of having seen yourself do it in your mind to that real practice. You're transferring the visualized practice in your brain to the real practice. Have you ever seen the Olympic sports?
Oh, I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Okay. You ever see swimmers or professional divers or professional skiers before they take their dive or before they do the swim or the top of the ski run? What do you think they're doing? You see them visualizing the ski run or the swim or the dive, and you'll actually see them moving their hands.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
They're seeing it in their mind before they actually do it.
Interesting.
And then when they go to actually do it, they're just repeating what they've already seen in their brain.
So is the whole idea of getting the feeling of confidence, at least the way I imagine it, if I'm confident, it sort of takes away the negative feelings and the stress behind it. Is that the idea? It's not so much removing the stress. It's programming your mind and fooling it to think that, you know what, I've already done this. I've done it already in my mind. And so I feel like it's familiar. It feels familiar. Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Strategy number 3 is to program your confidence, which is a little different take on this process. We don't have confidence in everything we do. So, for example, you're a pretty good dancer, right? You're a good dancer.
Well,
sure. I saw you on the dance floor at the Creativity Cruise. You're pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But if I said to you, okay, I want you to stand up on the stage and I want you to sing, suddenly that confidence is gone, isn't it?
I'm going to be running and hiding, I can tell you that.
You got it. So we don't have confidence in everything we do in life. It tends to be selective. So here's how to program your confidence. You want to be able to, again, it's about transferring from one to another. What's critical here is being really specific, again, as part of visualization. It's very specific about what you hear, feel, and see. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here. So if you were to relive a past time where you were incredibly confident at something, you ask yourself the following questions. What did I see? What was the size of the picture when I'm visualizing this with my eyes closed? Was the picture a movie or was it still? Was it black and white or was it color? Was it clear or was it fuzzy? Was it near or was it far away? What did I hear? What was the sound like? Was it a fast tempo? What was the pitch like? What direction did the sound come from? What did you feel in your body? How intense was the feeling? How long did it last? You see, all of those things, when we try and create that in our mind, you create a holographic picture of that experience in your brain.
It sounds like you need to go immerse yourself in that experience, really.
Right. And that's why you notice I've asked all the detail about, was it color? Was it black and white? So whenever we do a visualization, it has to be at that level of detail.
Wow.
Now, what you can then do is you can use this level of detail and transfer it to an area that's you're not so confident in. Okay, so here's the steps you would take. Step number 1, relive a past experience in which you felt. Now, step 2, you notice these things I was talking about, all the visual, auditory, and sensory qualities associated with that experience. You know, things like, was it black or white? What was the sound like? All of that thing. Now, having collected that detail of all that stuff, now you shift your imagination and you imagine a situation in the future where you need that kind of confidence of detail. And then what you do is you transfer that detail into that new situation. And you say, okay, is it color? Is it moving? What's the sound like? How am I feeling it? Where in the body am I feeling? How long is it lasting? And you just replicate that detail into the new experience.
I gotcha.
And then the last step is you imagine adjusting it. No, the sound's not loud enough. I'm going to make it louder. The color's not bright enough. I'll make it brighter. The picture's not big enough. I'm going to make this huge like it's a screen at the movie. And you alter those things in your mind. So by doing that, you create a scenario where you feel confidence as it's reflected in the size of the sensory experience.
Let me ask you something. So as you're creating this image in your mind, with all its complexities, as crisp and clear, and immerse yourself as much as you can. Now, once you have that feeling, and I guess you anchor it or whatever, are you saying that you keep reusing that same scenario, that feeling of confidence, to different activities? Or do you have to kind of start over every time when you're doing a different activity that you need confidence in? When you're trying to imagine a new thing you're going to go into where you may feel I'm not so confident, you go back to that situation that you were confident in and you recreate the sound, the picture, and everything else from that in your mind. And then you transfer that to the new situation. So you'd have to go access that over and over again each time, yes. Okay, all right, I got it. Well, actually, that sounds kind of simple. If you could just come up with one good scenario and you just hold on to it. Exactly. All of us have had a situation where we felt incredible confidence in doing one particular thing. Use it. Access that so you can then transfer it to another situation where you're not feeling so confident. Interesting. Okay. So those are the three kind of major strategies that I want to do in this segment that are going to you're going to be able to use to build confidence in any new scenario where you think you may lack it. And so if you've taken notes or you're going to watch this video again, just follow those steps that I've outlined very carefully. And then finally, the thing on productivity, those 20-minute segments, so that you can focus a lot more of your attention on what you're doing. Great. So, Ray, I guess this brings us to the conclusion of the first half of our presentation, correct? That's correct. Okay. Well, viewers, and this is one of the reasons why we make this recording, so you can actually rehearse this and replay it back and so forth. So we got a handful of good techniques here. And actually, I was making a few notes as we were doing this interview. So anyhow, thank you for joining us on this episode, and come back for part 2 of building practical strategies to build confidence in business and in your life. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.